Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, DevOps engineer Justin Dennison, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined by Don Pizzette over there. Don, how's it going?
It is going great. Excited about today's show.
And Justin dressed up for today. Justin, how's it going over there?
It's going. Did you just say Peter Van Rysdammed?
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you did.
All right, let's start this.
Your Freudian slipped how you feel about the podcast. I was also distracted during our intro. I look like a different person than the person in our intro.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that guy dressed up.
It just shows how replaceable you are.
Yep.
And we'll get to that later. And we have Daniel Lowry up there. Daniel, how's it going?
Man, shut your mouth.
Perfect. Always on brand. Thank you so much. And we are joined today by a special guest, Balaji Parimi, who is the founder and CEO of CloudKnox's Security. How you doing?
Great. No complaints. How are you guys?
We are good. Thank you so much for joining us in this this crazy time in the world. From your home, or are you guys in the office?
So, from home.
From home. All right. Lovely. Like I said, Balaji is the founder and CEO of CloudKnox, and I personally don't know much about CloudKnox. Let's go ahead and get to know CloudKnox and Balaji in our first segment, Rapid Fire Questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, so this is a 5-minute segment where we're going to ask you some questions. You have 45 seconds to a minute to answer. You go over time, Peter's going to buzz you in, and we're going to move on. Peter's going to take the first question.
All right, let's do it. So what is CloudKnox? I'm assuming, based on the name, it's like kind of a tribute to Fort Knox, so very high security.
Yes, you're spot on. CloudKnox is a permissions management platform for hybrid and multiple clouds. We manage user and machine permissions across these clouds. Cloud is a very automated and highly critical part of any organization's infrastructure. We focus on protecting that.
So there are, very many risks and rewards whenever you're moving to the cloud. What are some of the more kind of the greater benefits for an enterprise if they're going to move to the cloud?
Speed, agility, and scale. I mean, an application can be deployed in a cloud literally within few minutes. And you can scale up the number of servers to literally within few clicks. That has never been the case. I've been working as an engineer for about 25 years. Never been the case with the kind of benefits that cloud provides.
So I know we read about breaches all the time. They hit the news wire. Different company XYZ is getting hit each week. And when they're on-prem, I know I feel like I have a little more control over the systems. When I've got things deployed in the cloud, I feel like more people could possibly attack it. From your point of view, since you protect these servers, what do you see these attackers going after? Are they just trying to get like PII or open database? What's their target?
So basically, from an on-prem to cloud perspective, the only difference is the perimeter. So in an on-prem place, you had a perimeter. Now in a cloud, the perimeter is kind of dissipating. But the level of automation, the level of risk is exactly the same, whether you are private or public, because the automation is such that all it takes is a one-liner to do pretty much anything. And stealing data is one aspect of it, but I've known many public incidents where are demanding ransom and they're engaging in crypto mining, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me ask you this real question. We're getting deep into the security here. We've seen huge data breaches here within the last few years. It's just becoming commonplace. Of course, one of the larger ones that comes to mind is the one like Equifax. Have you seen that companies now are starting to push better and greater security because of that? How are you seeing companies respond to massive data breaches such as that?
Yeah, I mean, every company wants to do everything they can to make sure that these kinds of incidents don't happen, because nobody wants to be in headlines. So the issue is the attackers have to be right only once in their entire lifetime or in any gazillion tries that they do, but the defenders have to succeed every single time. And with the level of innovation that is happening, there is always some new attack vectors that these attackers could come out in a new way. Whereas the defenders, if you look at the number in an enterprise, there may be 1,000 attackers gunning for an enterprise, and there may be less than 50 people that are trying to protect that. So it's always going to be the case, but the odds are we have to be right every single time. The attackers need to be right only once. That's why these things are happening, because enterprises are reacting fairly quickly and making good plans not to get into that kind of situation in the first place.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that first time that Justin is right, but it has not come up yet. So I'm curious, going back to, you're not only the CEO, but you are the founder as well. So what led you to start CloudKnox? Why did you say, hey, this is something that I need to fill this void in the market?
Yeah, early in my career, I was an early employee at VMware, where virtualization is the foundation for all the cloud computing. All the AWS, Azure, GCP, all these things are built on top of the virtualization aspect of it. I was a technical lead there, building a lot of those systems. And then after that, I moved on to a SaaS company where I was managing hybrid clouds using both on-prem and public cloud combination. A lot of the problems that I was trying to solve there so that I'm not in the headlines was the motivation behind starting this company.
That makes sense. All right. Well, while we have a cloud expert here, I want to go ahead and take advantage of your expertise and get some input on our first segment here, which is science and technology news.
Stay tuned for science and technology. And now back to the anchor desk.
That's us. We are the anchor desk. All right. So the article that we're looking at here is titled "Large Cloud Providers Much Less Likely Than Enterprises to Get Breached." And so, I know you said some of the benefits are how quickly you can deploy to the cloud, but also it sounds like there's a great benefit here that your stuff might be a little bit safer. So can you tell us a little bit about this research that's out from Coalfire?
Yeah. So the thing is that with cloud infrastructure, part of your infrastructure is managed and secured by other by external providers, right? Like I said, when you look at somebody at AWS or Azure or GCP, you're looking at thousands and thousands of people trying to protect their entire infrastructure. Where if you had the similar type of infrastructure within your own environment, you're looking at a much, much, much lower number. And within the shared responsibility model, the cloud providers have more resources in terms of everything, humans, capital, and research, and all these kinds of things. So obviously they are they have the firepower to do a lot more. Whether it is network intrusion or vulnerabilities or physical security, any of these kinds of things, because of the sheer scale. And also their main focus is just on that side of things.
No, I'm always curious, on-prem, I just have one environment to protect. But when we deploy in the cloud, right now we've got maybe multiple regions or availability zones we're dealing with. We spread our deployment out to take advantage of that. We could even go multi-cloud, and it seems like that would increase our risk. The article's almost counterintuitive that you'd think everybody knows that AWS exists, and so attackers would target AWS versus they might not know an enterprise exists and target that specific enterprise. So an organization like yours, you're helping to protect people that are spread across more than one cloud. Is that a bigger risk when somebody spreads across more than one cloud, or are they protecting themselves?
Not necessarily, because you have to know the operating models. Whether you're there are instances where when you're running on-prem, you could be running VMware, Hyper-V, KVM, all these kinds of things. You will have the similar type of heterogeneity in terms of your environment. The biggest difference between a cloud environment and an on-prem is, in an on-prem, you have that sense of, okay, everything is in my boundaries. So even if I have misconfigurations, I can get away with some of those kinds of things. But in reality, but for protecting your network or your perimeter, you're employing many, many solutions and many, many employees to take care of that. But once somebody gets into that, it is it's no different. Like your misconfigurations and your excessive permissions and all those kinds of problems exist out there too. when you go to cloud infrastructure, in the public cloud side of things, a lot of the things that you have to be responsible for, they can take care of those kinds of things. So it's a matter of what is more important. Like when it comes to the speed, agility, and scale aspect of it, or can you sacrifice some other kind of stuff? But it's not to say that on-prem is more safer than public cloud. It is the responsibility. When you move into a public cloud, you got to pay attention to a lot more other things. Like, for example, configuration and managing permissions at fine granularity, and knowing which machines, which users can do what kind of things. So focus is more on that side of things. So it's a balance. It's a figuring out what is your top priority in on-prem versus in a cloud environment. And all these cloud providers are increasingly adding more and more tool sets to make it easier for the cloud users to not get into the situation where they are making it easy for hackers to come in and do damage.
Now, I know I'm pretty much an AWS guy, so when I deploy something in the cloud, I go into Amazon's cloud stack and deploy there. I find that managing the users is fairly easy. They have the whole IAM framework in place, but attackers could potentially get in there and create things if I'm not watching for it. I don't have a lot of experience with managing users in the other platform, and I know you guys cover several different ones. Do you find that all the platforms are kind of equal in how they manage permissions and users, or do you find that one platform is better than the others?
Every platform is completely different. In fact, they're worlds apart. So if you know how to manage, and also in terms of managing user permissions, there are multiple providers involved. Like, for example, every organization have some sort of an identity provider to centralize authentication, whether it is AD or some sort of a SAML-based identity federation system or any of those kinds of things. So authentication comes through that. Within AWS, you need to figure out, okay, once the user is authenticated, how do I manage his permissions? In AWS, there are half a dozen ways that you can do that. If you go to Azure, the model is completely different. If you go to on-prem, it's a different model. So there is no same exact model across all these cloud providers. Every model is different. Every cloud provider is different.
And is that really where CloudKnox fits in? Like you give us one point of view, one dashboard that covers all of them?
Exactly. So we kind of imagine we came up with a protocol called Activity-Based Authorization Protocol. We got patents on it. With our protocol, we make it simpler for our customers to manage the permissions of all identities, including machines, bots, access keys, cron jobs, and all, across all clouds with the same operating model.
I bet he was just hoping you would ask that. Yeah. Yeah, it was like, as a matter of fact, Don, we do. You paid you to ask that question. I should mention this article that we're looking at is from darkreading.com. So check it out because it's got a lot more statistics and things from the coal fire research that they did that really interesting and to see not only this year, but it's actually references a couple years ago and how things have changed. And it looks like things are getting more secure. I don't know if that's the cloud providers being more secure or hackers just getting lazy. But things are moving in the right direction, so we're happy about that.
Should I get a bunch of money from this corporation, or should I have another Cheeto? Cheetos it is.
Cheeto. There you go.
Man, Barty Miller's on.
So I want to ask you, Balaji, if people want to find out more about CloudKnox, where do we go? What's the URL?
CloudKnox.io.
.io. Okay. I always have to ask these days because there's so many top level domains.
They mean business when they got a .io though.
Yeah. It's like the startup domain of choice. So I like that. And recently, you guys won an award. Is that correct?
Yes.
What was it?
Sinus 16 Innovators Award.
Innovators Award. Very cool. Well, congratulations on that. And any other news going on with you guys? Daniel, applause there. Any other announcements or upcoming events or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, Gartner recently created a category for the work that we've been doing in this space, and they named a school vendor. And the category is called CIEM, Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management. And It's great to be the leaders in the new category that's been come up by big analysts like Gartner and other guys.
Yeah, well, if you want to check that out, and all the information is there on CloudKnox.io. CloudKnox with an X, not CKS, because CloudKnox is
It's
a
a Cloud
totally
Knox
different
for us.
Yeah, not Hard Knocks, Fort Knox. Think Fort Knox. So CloudKnox.io. Well, thank you so much, Balaji, for taking the time, and you've got tons of experience, so we're very excited to hear all the things you had to say. So we appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate giving me the time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Happy to do it. And stay tuned. We're going to get to the news in just a second after this quick break here on Technado with Don Pizzette.
Do you know what's better than being an IT Pro TV member? Being a member for free. Hi, I'm Don Pizzette, co-founder and edutainer here at IT Pro TV. Once you sign up for an IT Pro TV personal membership subscription, you'll automatically be part of our referral program. Then all you have to do is share your personal referral link and code with your friends and colleagues. Every time one signs up, you get money off your subscription. Sign up enough and your membership is free. That's right, access to all your favorite IT training totally free. Kind of feels like stealing, doesn't it? Check out the link below to learn how to get your code and start sharing today.
Welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette, and thank you so much to Balaji Parimi from CloudKnox, cloudknox.io. Check it out. But we also have a lot of news to check out today, a lot of security stuff, a lot of fun things. So let's jump right in at theregister.com. Microsoft submits Linux kernel patches for a complete virtualization stack with Linux and Hyper-V. Linux on Azure might no longer need Windows. So, I mean, we've been talking about kind of the move to Linux with Microsoft for a while, but I mean, are we just done now with Windows completely?
I think we are getting really close. And, if we get in our Wayback Machine, back at the end of 2018, I predicted that we would have a Microsoft Linux in 2019. I was wrong, so that didn't happen. So then I doubled down and ran with that prediction for 2020 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they have released WSL2, which is a version of Linux that uses a kernel that is maintained and supported by Microsoft, although most of the work's done by Canonical. So we're really, really close. This is about as close as we can actually get to having Microsoft Linux without actually having it. So you'll have the Hyper-V hypervisor that's running on bare metal, and then instead of Windows being the host OS, you'll have Linux. Linux will be the host OS running on top of Hyper-V, and then you'll be able to have virtual machines on top of that. It means you can actually have a full Linux stack without Windows.
So Justin and I were actually talking about this before the podcast, and we were like, why they keep removing the barriers from me to going back to a Windows-based system or now a Windows Linux-based system, because I can just run Linux basically at this point, and it's awesome.
So, Don, do you think this is going to be something where in the data center they go with a full Linux thing and then they still keep like Windows 10 for consumer? Because just got that Windows computer, I set up WSL2. I was like, I got all the tools that I've been wanting from a Linux machine. I don't have to do anything else. You think that's how they're going to go?
Well, I think what they're doing is turning Hyper-V into its own product. Like they've had the HVS, the Hyper-V server standalone edition for a while, where it had the Windows Core OS that was managing it and it had all sorts of limitations. So now we don't know exactly how they're going to position this yet, but it sounds like it's going to be something free to make Hyper-V a competitor for, like right now, if you want to run Zen or KVM, you can do that. It's open source. You can run VirtualBox, but it needs a host OS of some sort to sit on top of, or ESX, which is running on top of Linux. So here, Hyper-V now becomes much more of a competitor to be able to run on your bare metal. You stick your other OSs on top. So I think they're trying to be more competitive with their virtualization. And they know that Microsoft Azure is fully built on top of Hyper-V, but they're launching more Linux machines than they are Windows machines. So I think this is their way of flagging us that, hey, Windows Server OS is on the way out. You can already run Microsoft SQL on top of Linux. They're porting more products over to Linux. We're still missing the Active Directory piece, so we don't have that. But if you're using Azure AD, you don't actually need it running on an instance. And so I think Windows Server is on the way out.
It's funny. Adam's probably going to have to give you an apology, because I remember us having that conversation in the lobby one day, and you were saying, I predict this is how it's going to go. And Adam's like, no way, never going to happen. It's just, that's not how it works. And I'm like, I don't know. I think Don might be onto something, and now here we are.
This is Adam Gordon, IT
Yeah.
Pro TV edutainer. Yeah.
The from a
the
perspective
Adam
of Hyper-V, I've used a couple of different virtualization, not necessarily something like Zen or KVM, but why is Microsoft saying I'm going to build this again? It seems like there were some solutions already there. Why are they making this their own product? Is it just so they can have control over it, or was it the Windows piece, or what?
I think it's because they already had it, right? So like AWS is built on top of Zen and KVM. So they just took an open source hypervisor, and that's what they used to build AWS. Google Cloud does the same. VMware, they have their own hypervisor, but they haven't made headway in the cloud. So with Microsoft, they were already using Hyper-V to power Azure. So now they're basically just spitting it out to be a product. So what's going on here is, in order for an operating system to be the host for Hyper-V, it has to be able to manage certain aspects. And so Microsoft has submitted a bunch of kernel patches to make it where the Linux kernel will have it built in. That'll free us up to be able to pick and choose between Linux distros to be the host OS on top of Hyper-V. I think this is work that really helps them internally that then becomes a product they sell outside.
Yeah, and there was a cool graph on this article that actually kind of lays out the architecture that help you understand it a little bit, because I know it kind of gets confusing for me, definitely, when we're like, all right, well, this is running on the bare metal, and this is virtual on top of this and that. So to kind of see that architecture helps you understand it. So check that out over at theregister.com. But very, very close to, I thought COVID would take Don's prediction and make it not a thing anymore, but...
Don can't be stopped.
And if I am, I just push it off to the next year.
That's right. Boom.
Yeah.
He's
Win,
the
baby.
Nostradamus of IT.
They're so slow. Yeah.
If he makes enough predictions, statistics says he's got to be right.
That's right.
I believe that's how it works.
Yep.
All right, well, let's check out our next article. It's over at arstechnica.com. We found out who makes Walmart's new gateway laptops, and it's bad news. We'll
I
give you
never
3
expected
guesses.
it to be good news.
One hint: extra virgin olive oil.
So the mafia?
I believe it's the mafia. It's the Corleone family
Kinda
is making
weird.
gateway
Reference to the Costa Nostra, or whatever it's called. Costa Nostra? Is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Don, those were our guesses. Are we right? Is it the
No,
mafia?
not that I'm aware of. So anyhow, so I gotta get my mind right.
I like how that got you.
There was a time, right, back in probably like 1995 through 2000, where Gateway made like the highest quality home PCs and even business PCs, right? People would get the box with the cow print on it, and
That's how you know it's quality.
they were considered the best. If money was no object, you wanted the best computer, you'd buy a Gateway. And the brand kind of collapsed over the years, whereas like Dell continued to grow, Gateway did not. And years ago, they were acquired by Acer. Acer, which was known for making cheap computers, acquired the Gateway brand. Well, the brand kind of disappeared for a long time. I haven't seen them, and Walmart recently relaunched a series of laptops with the Gateway brand on them. So there was some debate. Hey, is this going to be quality computing again? Are they going to try and get this brand to be what it could have been? And the short answer is basically no. A company called EVOO, EVOO, so that's, I guess, the extra virgin olive oil reference. So EVOO is making these, and Ars Technica done a review on them last year, and they're absolute pieces of trash. And so I think that the new Gateway is going to be like the old Packard Bell. And so these are junk. So if you are waxing nostalgic and remembering your Gateway and you see one of these things available, resist the temptation and don't buy it.
The Packard Bell was actually my family's first computer.
For a lot of people, it was. Yeah.
That's a great one. I'm waiting for the Tandy to be re-released.
It's funny. I remember, like, in the mid to late 90s, I guess it was, I would get that Gateway catalog in the mail and just be drooling over these machines, like, oh man, this is so amazing. Oh, look at the specs on this thing, as they were super awesome. And it just like lit that fire underneath me to want to really be a part of IT or whatever. And now it's like, this is the worst garbage you could buy,
Yep.
And for some reason they make extra virgin olive oil to go with it. And it's a weird company, but hey, you gotta diversify, I guess.
That was the thing. I read this entire article and I did not get the extra virgin olive oil reference.
It was a little bit of a stretch. I was like, I was thinking of brands of extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just imagine Gateway computers being assembled next to cold press virgin olive oil, like giant, like food augers, and they're like, "All right, Bill, bring over the CPUs. We got to put them in while the olive oil's cooking."
That's right. It's what we're using for thermal paste.
Well,
Yeah, the Corleone company, wasn't it Genco olive oil?
Genco.
I think that's what it was.
Was that what they did?
Yeah, that was
that
the
would be-
front was the
that
olive
would be
oil
funny.
company. Yeah. Well, it looks like the prices match the quality because they've got a lineup here of the different ones, and they start at $180.
Do I at least get a cow print on the outside of it?
You do.
It's got
Yeah.
a little,
Yeah.
I don't know if the box still has it, but the logo looks exactly the same on top of the laptop. So it looks
Yeah.
like they just took a pair of pliers and ripped that EVU logo off.
Hey, what you don't know is it's a Pentium 2 inside of there. Yeah.
But it's running Linux.
The high end
it's
one
screaming.
is a 15.6 inch screen with an Intel i5, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. Doesn't say if that's spinning or SSD, and it's priced at $1,000. So
Oh,
that's
they
the high end
high.
one.
Yeah.
They are high.
They are high.
Not only on price, but on their own product.
Yeah. Well, all right. So do
That's
not
the part
run
we
out.
don't see is like these laptops are coming over from China with bags of heroin in them, and then they're selling the laptops.
Like, I didn't know these still came with optical disc drive. That is a bunch of coke.
So do not lick your new computer.
Yeah.
You're not sure what it is.
It's actually covered in psilocybin. Oh. Cow patties.
What was it? The thing that said umbrella plant make vision go burr.
All right. Yeah. So don't run out and buy one of those thinking it is the gateway of old.
By the way, anybody listening that thinks any of those things are true, stop.
It's probably eating those umbrella plants.
I can see us getting a strongly worded leather block. I've been licking the piss out of this gateway, and I still ain't high.
So it's got mushrooms, heroin, and piss in it.
For
I call
$1,000,
shenanigans.
it would have to have a lot of mushrooms and heroin.
Yeah. No wonder they don't run well.
The thermal properties on all these are bad.
Go to Walmart and ask for the 2 kilo gateway. Be like, where do you keep
Yeah.
that?
You shorting me some there, son? I know what 2 keys of bang bang feels like. It ain't this.
This is a battery.
You skimming off the top?
Yeah.
All right, our next article is over at slashdot.org. FBI says credential stuffing attacks are behind some recent bank hacks.
No.
Yeah, it could be. So I know that term, but can you kind of give me a little bit of a, I don't know, Daniel, maybe, like what exactly is credential stuffing? Are we just,
Credential
like, hitting-
stuffing is when you have a golden turkey and you fill it full of creds, right? And you stick it in the oven on 450 for 3 hours. You're good to go.
And you have a pre-cooked one, and boom, there it
It's
is.
amazing. No, credential stuffing is where, so let's say we've had a data breach, or there are data breaches in the wild, and there's those horrible people out there selling the information that they found from those data breaches on the dark webs there. So I buy, let's say, 1,000 credentials. And then I say, well, I wonder what the likelihood it is that one of these people that I have the credentials to use those credentials somewhere else, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth, right? So I know I have good credentials for one thing, but it's a pretty good possibility that they reuse this somewhere else. I do that. I take all those creds, I throw it at each one of those interfaces and see if anything works. So it's great because you don't really get hit with things like fail to ban because I'm not trying a brute force mechanism against a single user. I'm trying known good credentials against known applications.
Okay.
Hopefully some of those work.
That's why I put a different number after my dog's name on each site.
Yeah, that's a good idea if you like not security.
I do not like security. So there were some recent bank hacks, and I are these things we reported on, or are these?
Maybe.
They're a little vague. They're just saying the FBI is accrediting this to a number of different attacks. And it really is just a reminder that password reuse is your biggest enemy, right? You just have to assume that some of the services you're using are going to get breached. Some of them are going to get breached and you don't even hear about it. They don't report it, right? Which they're not supposed to do, but they don't. So in those scenarios, if you're using the same password in more than one place, that's where credential stuffing wins. That's when, you know, they hack into your fantasy football league, get your creds, and then go and use that against your company VPN. And so now what turned out to be a non-consequential thing, what do I care about my fantasy football league, now becomes, ooh, they just broke into the workplace using my credentials. I'm going to lose my job. So, you have to use whatever it takes to make sure you don't reuse passwords. Password managers are the easiest way to do that. Like I use LastPass. That makes sure that I don't use the same password anywhere in more than one place.
So the only downside I can see to LastPass is if I ever get kidnapped and held at gunpoint, or somebody's threatening to beat all my fingers off with a hammer, and they're like, tell me what your password is. I'm like, bro, you're not going to believe this. I have no clue. Look at me like, what do you mean you have no clue? I'm like, it's 36 random characters. I have no idea
Bring
what it
me
is.
a boggle board.
Yeah. Also,
show
Peter, you should change your fantasy football password.
Well, and this also
Yeah, you can have it.
highlights the idea of using multi-factor as well, right? If you have multi-factor, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if they have your credentials. You gotta have the second factor, or you're not getting anywhere.
I have thought about it. Like on my home security system, there's 2 passwords. So if the alarm ever goes off and they call to see if I'm okay, there's one password I can give that says, yeah, I'm okay. Sorry, we screwed up and set off the alarm.
Right.
But there's a second password we can give which says, hey, I'm not okay. Please send the SWAT team. Right? And so if somebody were holding you at gunpoint, you can give the second password, and then it still works, still sets the alarm off. So I always thought LastPass and services should have
Set that
a
up,
a
yeah.
second password that shows like fake creds or something.
Because I hope you know your
That's a good
LastPass
idea.
password, Justin, right?
Yeah.
You have to know your
pause.
LastPass password.
Yeah.
So I have it on good authority. It didn't happen to me. Wink, wink.
Asking for a friend.
Right. So I had a previous company LastPass to keep things separate, and I didn't use it very often, but just because of the nature of the work. And one day, you know how LastPass will periodically log you out and go, hey, you need to supply your password. So I had changed computers between the last time. There is no way to get in there.
Nope.
FYI. So
almost
if you
like it's
forget your
secure.
LastPass password and you don't have a device that you've ever logged in on, you just go ahead and write that off.
Yep.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah. And then they were like, do you want us to delete your account? I was like, yeah. And then they asked me a question. I was like, I don't know the answer to that. They're like, well, we can't delete your account either. I'm like, oh, well, crap.
You're gonna
It's still out there.
keep data that's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, so I do know my LastPass password, and I do not use it anywhere else, and it is very long.
That's why I write it down, put it right in the wallet.
That's
Nope.
right.
Not
on
written
the,
down anywhere.
On the post-it on the mirror at home.
It's my pet's name, so I
all-
never forget it.
And the current year.
Yes, right.
And by the way, I don't think my fantasy football team was hacked because Saquon Barkley tearing his ACL in the second game of the season is not a hack.
He's a hack.
That's called. My second overall pick.
Is out.
So he was a beast. With a torn ACL, he's a
not
kitten.
a beast.
Yeah, they don't give any points for that.
Didn't that happen to like Bo Jackson? He was like this rampaging monster on the field, and all of a sudden he got his leg hurt or something. That was the end of him.
In fantasy football, you should get points for like injury, the severity of the
severity
injury, and yeah.
And like points you can like amortize over the weeks then.
Yeah, like blood spot. It's like, oh, blood bonus. Oh.
Plus, I feel like if you're gonna call it fantasy football league, I should be able to use my imagination and be like, I want God on my team.
Yeah. give me a 20-sided die. I'm gonna fix this. Yeah. All right. Our next article is over at zdnet.com. Zerologon attack lets hackers take over enterprise networks. Patch now. Microsoft patches one of the most severe bugs ever reported to the company. Now, is this like a LastPass?
The way you
Zerologon?
said that, it sounded like an infomercial. You better patch now.
And if you patch now, we'll throw in a second Zerologon account that the hackers also have.
There is actually another patch coming out for Zerologon.
So this headline in different forms has been on every single news site because it's a huge exploit that's available that basically allows an attacker access to your Active Directory. And that's bad because if they're able to compromise that, they can then compromise everything throughout your entire network. This is bad. And they are calling it the most severe bug reported by Microsoft in over a decade. So it's a huge deal.
So Zerologon is the name of the bug. I thought that was like a company too, like LastPass. No, I've got Zerologon. Just zero
get
passwords. Log on.
Yeah, I'm like,
what
I'm going to
Justin's
check
got.
my bank account. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Zero.
What an
Log out.
idea. Like, I should open up a company called Spectre and Meltdown, attorneys at law, right? And you know, what kind of SEO would you get on that?
Yes.
I don't know. There's a lot of other stuff you're
Are we going to
competing
win your case? I don't know, but we'll corrupt the court system.
All right, so Daniel, I'm assuming you've read more about this. Is this? They say we need to worry about it. Is this an insider-only type attack, or is this a big deal?
Yeah. So you do have to have inside. That is like the big caveat to this thing, right? It's not like you can be an external attacker, come in and be like, "Oh, I got Zerologon, look at me go." You already have to have compromised the internal network in some way, shape, or form. Now, that being said, there are ways to do that. That's not as difficult as some sort of like other weird hack that would give you. I mean, that's not possible, but maybe you walk into the lobby and there's a port right there. Oddly enough, those things occur.
Or you credential stuff the VPN.
Or you credential stuff the VPN.
Or you
Send
your
a
Spectre
fish.
and Meltdown attorneys at law come to serve a subpoena.
Yeah.
And then I need to check my email. Is that port free? Cool. And so you do need to have that internal access. But once you're there, you're able to basically tell the system, I am whoever I feel like being today, whatever computer account I feel like being, and give me that level of access. So they labeled it as a severity of full on 10. You know, I think of that scene from Varsity Blues.
Give it a 10.
He's a 10, freaking 10, right? Yeah. So
I love it
because it's a big problem. So if they're able to get this far, the good news is that Microsoft does already have the patch out, or they have basically a Band-Aid for this at this point in time. They are working on a full on let's stick some spackle in this and make the crack go away, paint over it. But they do expect it to break a lot of not your butt crack.
Do not smoke
So for
spackle.
some reason, the way you're describing this, it's you just got your femoral artery sliced, and then someone's over there with a tiny knuckle Band-Aid going, we're gonna patch this shit up real quick.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
And then they come over with quick dry spackle and slap it in there.
Don't do that
He's
either.
safe.
I did hear that MITRE was reevaluating their scoring system because this one might go to 11.
Oh, it's the old spinal tap.
Yeah. Why not just make it the highest severity 10?
Don't you
'cause it's
understand?
11.
I don't think you understand.
It's 11.
I'm
goes to
disappointed you
11.
didn't use a British accent there.
Yeah,
That.
well, we're culturally sensitive around here, Peter.
So this is okay.
But seriously, all that spackle in your femoral artery, just get that right. Spackling, it doubles as styptic powder. I don't know if you know
it would
this.
do that, wouldn't it?
By the way, that's not real first aid.
That is like fifth aid.
No,
Yeah.
that's where you use PVC glue.
And listen, even if you still bleed to death, you just put that in a bag and huff it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, little sniff for me.
Burns like a
bit down your
mother,
wound.
too.
Yeah, buddy. Anyway, what were we talking about?
So, by the way,
Justin's been over there with an open can of PVC glue.
I looked up. It's called Zerologon because the attack is done by adding 0 characters in certain NetLogon authentication parameters. And there's a graph on this great ZDNet article that shows how it's done. So, it's basically the Anarchist Cookbook here on ZDNet.
So,
ZDNet
so you're
stole
actually
that.
adding zeros for the way you were like 0 characters. I was like, so you don't add anything? I misunderstood what you said, Peter.
Yep. And then they're able to like repeat this over and over again. So they target one credential, and then I think they said it was an average of 256 attempts before they were able to gain access to an account. So
That's not bad.
Pretty fast.
That's fast.
Yeah.
That's scary,
Yes.
isn't it? Like
But
that
if-
right there just makes you go, just shut it all off.
So-
Just shut this shit
Start over.
down.
Programmatically, you're like, oh, it just happened. I just got in.
Yeah.
Like that's blink of an eye.
That's blink of an
56s,
eye
yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Remember the beginning of the pandemic where everybody was selling out of toilet paper? You couldn't find it anywhere?
Yeah.
Now with this, everybody's going to sell out of paper and pencils.
Yeah.
Everybody's just going back. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of sysadmins just packing their server room full of
Do you think I
Tannerite.
like being a truck driver? I think I will.
That truck bastards is looking good.
If you're using an EVU gateway computer, though, this takes about 4 hours.
Because you
Yeah.
can't compete.
Because that Pentium 2 is churning and burning.
man, it's
Also,
like-
you've got to light toilet paper on fire to feed it.
Yeah, keep stoking the fire. I'm running out of computing power here. All right, our next article is over at threatpost.com. Mozi Botnet accounts for majority of IoT traffic.
Yep.
So here I assumed the majority of IoT traffic was, your fridge telling you, hey, we're out of butter.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is. It's also saying, hey, look, I have an unsecured connection right here. Come on in.
Yeah. We're out of butter and Bitcoin and
Yeah.
And,
essentially.
ooh, look what Peter's doing in the kitchen.
So when I saw this headline, I thought, oh, wow. So like the botnet traffic has crossed this like 51% threshold. No, it's 90% of observed IoT traffic
Yeah.
is this one botnet, like not like multiple botnets, not all malware. So like the other 10% could still be 9.9% other botnets.
Yeah. It's not Mozi botnet, it's Fozzie.
Yeah.
Oh, waka waka.
It's like, man, we should use this IoT stuff for something else because all we do is botnets with it.
It's like the Gallagher brothers, right? So 90% of the time you get one smashing watermelons, and the other time it's
you get the other one smashing watermelons.
Were we talking about that
Oasis.
on the air or off the air?
Off the air.
Okay, I was like, that callback is confusing.
Yeah.
I was here for the.
Yeah, by the way, if you don't know, you should go research the Gallagher brothers. Crazy stuff. Anyway.
Well, not the Oasis Gallagher brothers.
No, the watermelon.
Well, that's crazy too.
Yeah, that's
They're
crazy.
kind of nuts as well.
Crazy stuff. But you know what's sad is when I read this, I'm only kind of surprised that.
I mean, 90% though, man.
Yeah,
That's,
but just like the
if they would've
Fozcam,
if
the
they would've
Fozcam
said
the other
70,
day.
yeah.
The Fozcam the other day, you're like, hey, look, it has Telnet on it, and you just turn it on, and it's like
yeah.
it's like they're not even trying to some extent. Just take that off.
Yeah,
Now-
why is this not a bigger deal?
Well, because they're like, you can't get to this. I mean, it's all you can get to is it's like, nah. So it's funny when I turn that thing on, if people at home are going, what the hell are they talking about? We have a Fozcam here. Peter has forever been talking about me hacking a Fozcam. So
yeah,
it's
which
like,
is one of those little home
Right.
PTZ cameras.
little IP camera. So I cracked into it the other day. I was just looking around the interface. I'm like, network time. Man, that feels rife with a command injection. So I start reading some documentation about how people have hacked. I'm like, oh, there it is. Yep, right there was where it was. And it's running a piece of software that allows you to perform different types of services. One of them is Telnets. You just say, hey, turn Telnet on. Like, and Justin's going, why is that there?
Like, just take it off because it was deactivated and
Yeah.
like spend 10 minutes to uninstall it.
Listen, I ain't got that kind of time. I got to crank these PTZ cameras out.
But now you have horrible like backlash, and 90% of your traffic is not even actual paying customers. It's a botnet.
But is the issue that it's not costing these companies money? Like Fozcam isn't paying for the traffic, or so it's not their issue as far as they think? Or?
I debate how big of a problem this actually is, because you know how any chart or table, any statistic can be manipulated to make it look worse. You can adjust scaling and so on. So what they're saying here is 90% of observed traffic flowing to and from IoT devices. Well, a normal IoT device, so like I have a Nest thermostat at home, right? So what traffic is it sending and receiving? Maybe every 5 minutes or so it's sending the current temperature of my home up to Google, and then every so often Google is pushing a message if there's an update, right? So very small amounts of traffic. But if an attacker takes over an IoT device, what are they going to do? They're going to start trying to spread to other devices, so constant scans. They're going to exfiltrate data if they can, maybe even bring up SSH tunnels. So a compromised device generates way more traffic than a non-compromised device. So I think 90% of observed traffic doesn't mean 90% of IoT devices. Mm-hmm. I think that it could be as small as like 10% of IoT devices that are hacked, but they're generating just way more traffic than what you normally see. That would be my guess.
That makes me want to it feels like everybody should just in their day-to-day life, like the companies that create their home modems and routers and whatnot, put a spanning port on there so you can just kind of look and see how much traffic and where it's coming from, get that visualization so you can see, why is my Roku talking to the world so much? And I'm not watching television.
It makes me want to put all my IoT stuff in a box and set it on fire and go build a small, tiny shed.
No, it'll catch fire on its own.
Shoot at airplanes.
Yeah, if it's running that many processes, the thermostat will just ignite eventually, I think. I don't think there's like a big heat sink on it.
Yeah.
Now, there is a solution to this. Actually, a solution to all these security things that we talk about. Like on a desktop, you can do whitelisting of applications, so only whitelisted applications are allowed to run. On your network, you can do outbound firewall rules. So outbound traffic is only allowed from these devices to these destinations. The problem is it's just a lot of work. It's a ton of work because if the Roku is connecting to Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and so on, how do you know what to open? It's a pain in the butt. So that, I think, is an area we could make a big difference in. If we came up with some better system for companies to report, here's the IPs and ports that you need to connect to so that our firewalls can react to that, we could have just way better network security.
They're not going to give that kind of information out because then they got to reveal the fact that they're spying on you like constantly.
But couldn't this be one of the systems, like one of the self-reporting kind of self-moderating systems? Man, I'm trying to think of an example because recently I set up a firewall at the house, just playing around, trying to learn some new things, and also gotten a little paranoid over the years. But one day Hulu stopped working. I was like, wow. And so I like uninstall all the apps and everything. I was like, that's weird. And I forgot that I had my firewall had a bunch of ad blockers. And Hulu had changed something, and that was part of the domains that were being blocked. So I had to go and like back off that.
Wait, when that was working, were you actually able to block the ads in Hulu with your ad
So
blocker?
I couldn't block the ads in Hulu. I think it just changed the network, and so like Hulu was like, well, if you can't see ads, then you can't watch it.
We got to fix that. Yeah.
I remember the first time I ran into that kind of problem. It was like I think it was my first Xbox 360. I didn't want to connect it to the internet. When I first got it, I wanted to use it as like a media center, and I couldn't get it to work. I'm like, why is this function not working? So I called Microsoft support, and they were like, well, you got to connect it to the internet. I'm like, I shouldn't have to connect. I just got it on an internal network. It should work fine. They're like, no, you got to connect it to the internet. I'm like, why do I need to connect it to the internet? Because this won't work unless you do that. I go, well, there you go, asshole.
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to do.
So I've talked to a couple of people in the office, and they've tried to do that with some IP cameras just so they have it internal, and then black hole all the things that are calling out. And a couple of the cameras that they've tried, the cameras just stop working. Period. They're like, oh, no, if I can't call home, just turn off.
Yeah, and you know that Google's sitting listening right now going, Don thinks that the Nest only checks every 5 minutes to do the temperatures.
It's like, I've drove his car at night.
I could give you a full transcript of everything he said last night.
Mr.
Don.
Google Spy Man, can you read back the minutes?
Yeah, I'm in an argument with my wife here, and she says she didn't say that. But
Well, I'm pretty sure she
Alexa
did.
knows.
Alexa, what did I just say 6 times?
Well, the big news that we have to discuss. Justin, do you want to tell us?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Peter.
That's so anticlimactic when there's no news at the end of it. So Justin, you're leaving us?
I am making a change. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how this.
No,
is
I
gonna
don't care
play
about
out.
the company thing. I'm talking about Technado.
No, I don't know how Technado is going to play out. If at all possible, it would be nice to come back and still be around. But I have to figure out some logistics.
I think you're kind of moving to the role of like, was it Steve Martin that was never on SNL? He was just like a,
like
he
a
was on all
supporting
the time.
cast
Or
member.
Chevy Chase, or one of those guys was just like there all the time. You can hang out here anytime you want.
Justin lives in the extra
He
bathroom.
lives in the studio
In the bathroom.
by the fan there.
He's in Studio 7, curled up next to his Gooch fan.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my fan.
But you
There are
don't-
many like it, but this one is mine. So we'll have to see how the future plays out. I suspect I will be absent at least for a couple of weeks, if not longer.
We're going to see less of Justin for a while, so that means things are going to get,
Boring as hell.
they're probably a little more cognizant.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe we just record just random quips from him, like, that's crazy.
Yeah, Justin will be here in spirit.
You remember, y'all played Mortal Kombat when you were little, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You remember, whoop-dee?
Oh, yeah. I
You
thought
should
it was
just have-
Toasty.
Yeah,
say
I think Toasty was too. I don't
Oh,
know.
that was
Whatever.
okay.
It was a bunch of random. They should just be me. Just pop in. Toasty.
Just a little head pop in.
Yeah.
There were several times today where I was wishing it was Daniel that was going, but
Uh-oh. Hey,
but as far as you're
Hey,
staying, Daniel, is
You,
that-
go ahead and get on to the next thing. I'm going to give you a surprise.
yes, sir.
Hey, you got one of those FOSS cams at home, right?
go to go.itpro.tv / Peter's living room.
I think you know, 'cause I see it moving around at night sometimes. That's the problem with the
Where
PTZ
is
camera.
Peter at today?
A couple
Oh,
times,
Peter, your mother's watching this.
if I've had workers over at my house before, and when I had the FOSS cam,
Yeah.
I was using that because now it's in a drawer. I'd be like, all right, I want to turn it and look at that guy and see what he's doing now, but I know it's going to make noise. He's going to look it's like,
See.
just kind of scoot it over.
We'll get a
When you
quiet
said
drive.
that, my mind went, make it as creepy as all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just stare straight.
I wanted
at
to
it.
turn it and
like-
look at it and look at that dude and go,
You should put like a wig around it with a little pair of lips. So it's like,
it's the female gremlin.
the female.
I was thinking more like Tom Servo from MST3K, the gumball machine.
It's a lot of weird noises happening now, but we'll record all those and keep those as Justin sounds as well. Hey, we've got something big coming up, the Hangover, the Enterprise IT post-COVID with Twit TV. We're doing that on Thursday, October 1st, 2020. Don is one of the panelists, along with Leo Laporte, Steve Gibson, and Amy Webb. So that is very exciting. If you want to learn more about that, head over to go.itpro.tv/the-hangover, and you can learn all about that. And it's, like I said, going to be live on the Twit Network Thursday, October 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can watch it over there. Very exciting. Also, have some webinars coming up. I know we're actually gonna look at the FOSCAM, right, or do some live hacking.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You wanna host that?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be fun because you talk so much about it. It would be funny to have you as the host. Yeah,
Talk so much trash, like you can't get into this camera.
We're going to talk a little more about the IoT business, and we're going to hack the FOSCAM so you can see what that looks like and see why that's having IoT is a dangerous thing. But we got to do some preventative measures if we're going to have those conveniences in our lives.
So
Right,
it's
do.
funny. I'm thinking about IoT. I have convinced several people in the office to not buy IoT devices.
yes.
I'm like, you don't want that. They're like, why not? I'm like, well, let me show you. And then I show them. They go, you're right. I don't take that out of the cart.
Yeah, they're throwing Nest cameras at the floor.
I'm pretty sure I might get sued because somebody's like, you're using your knowledge to get rid of all of our sales. I'm going to hire Spectre and Meltdown attorney at law.
Justin is now an influencer.
Yeah.
Please no.
All right, I don't have a date on that one yet, but just head over to itpro.tv/webinars, and there you can get all the information on the past webinars, future webinars, and all of that, and see the ones that are archived.
My paper says October the 8th.
October the 8th. There you go. That'll
2
be
p.m. Eastern
a
Standard
Thursday
Time.
at 2 p.m. Yeah. The one Ronnie did just last week, the buzz about intent-based networking, is now up. That you can see the recording of that and check it out and enjoy all the fun from that. Also, we got a cloud-free weekend coming up on September 19th, and that was last weekend. That was last weekend.
So if you were there, congratulations.
We're gonna cut that part out in post. So
Peter had
and
one
cut.
of those funny umbrella plants. Fish and go bird.
It makes a vision go.
No, I was just going to say it
brrr.
was a great weekend, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And
I
if you
don't
want to say
remember it,
thank you, email us. And if you missed it, we do a free weekend once a month, so you can check out some IT Pro TV training for free. And we got Certain X is coming up in November. I got some other cool stuff, so we'll keep you posted on that. And finally, head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, where you can get a 20% or 30% off. We're going to 30 now. We're doing 30% off coupon code.
Jergens 30.
Yeah,
Name your own discount.
that is not the code, Justin.
That's not the code.
Yeah, for an extra 10%, Kleenex 10.
So yeah,
That's
go
a throwback to the first episode of the reboot.
Yep.
Yeah. Go.itpro.tv/Technado. I'm surprised Anthony Sequeira stayed with ITPro TV after that episode, but he sure did. Justin, I feel like every week there's something that you're like, nope, not going to say that, could get fired. So now is the chance. Anything you want to tell anybody?
No, I figure if I come back, then that's off the table, right?
But if you don't technically work here, we're not paying you.
Yeah,
You can say whatever you want.
I'm like,
Does this look like cancer?
I'm like, Justin, stop.
oh, turn back around.
We're going to get flagged on YouTube again.
Yeah, again. Yeah.
Like, I'm flagging us on YouTube for that one.
Just thinking back, was this episode for kids? No, heroin and gateway computers. No.
Yeah, we were talking about licking the piss out of computers. Or
All right,
I was.
Good to know. All right, well, thank you, Justin. Again, I know that
Everybody been talking like I'm going to die.
You are.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, eventually.
yeah. We all died, technically, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
Way to
This
bring
isn't
it
necessarily your last episode, but it's your last official episode where you're in the intro. So I'm gonna have to edit you out.
I would get too premature on that, Peter.
I think he's already done it.
Yeah,
It's already.
I can't do it again.
Peter's like, yay, I finally get to take him out.
I have a version already I made with Daniel out of it.
You just struck out my name and put Daniel out. That's not Daniel. I know, we were strapped for time for this intro.
We'll figure it out. All right, well, thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.